Alrighty, so before the national televised game between Charlotte FC versus Atlanta United is going to begin, I am going to do the review of all 12 games that happened yesterday. And by the way, I just realized today that daylight saving actually just began, or did it actually end? I mean, I always get confused because usually the clock either move back or move forward around this time of period, and I think this time it actually moved forward, which means that unfortunately we do lose an hour of sleep, and that was a little bit problematic because I was out all day in terms of not only going to work but also ground hop as part of the Sports Hop series episode, and basically I did watch highlights pretty much all of these games, so the notes are not going to be as detailed, but I also kind of had to scramble because there was a lot of games that I had to watch highlights on, and not to mention I also had to put the notes on the board, which, as I mentioned before, it does take longer than you think it would be. But let us actually begin with the 12 game action, and let's go all the way back to the matinee games, which is between NYCFC versus Montreal, the first of what would be four matinee games that we would have in the Saturday action. And this game, the scoreline really didn't indicate how this game, of course, went. I mean, there was actually some big momentum swing in this game between both teams, but in the end, it was NYCFC that walked out victorious with an emphatic 4-1 win against Montreal. Now, early on, Parks missed just one from close range as he went through on goal, but then 7 minutes in, NYCFC would take the lead. It's Callens scoring from Magno and Keaton Parks, and there's no doubt that this is definitely an early contention for goal of the week at that point. I mean, this week we saw a lot of good goals that's been scored where, I think last week we had that talk about whether is it going to be the Efrain Alvarez golazo that he scored against Charlotte or the bicycle kick that Diego Chara scored, or not Diego Chara, Jimmy Chara scored against LAFC is going to be one. Just a spoiler, it seems like it was the Efrain Alvarez free kick goal that, of course, won out on this. But this week, I think the voters, especially the fans, might have a tougher choice because there seems to be a lot of good goals that has been scored, and this is definitely one of the better ones. I mean, Callens absolutely hits that one off the volley. You don't usually see a defender hit a volley as sweet as what Callens just did. And yeah, that gave NYCFC the 1-0 lead. It was all NYCFC early in this game, though Montreal almost scored against the run of play as Waterman, I feel like he should have scored here as he just missed an absolute sitter in the back post. And that turns out to be costly because just 7 minutes later, Santi Rodriguez would make it 2-0 in favor of NYCFC, and then it was 3-0 in favor of NYCFC when Magno scored, but unfortunately the goal was disallowed for offside as he was in an offside position, though it was also almost 3-0 again as Breeze Rob, actually there's not an N in Magno's name, it's not Magnum, it's Talus Magno there, but Breeze with an incredible save there to deny Talus Magno from 4 yards out, and NYCFC could have been 4-0 leading at halftime, but they do lead 2-0 heading into the second half. Now in the second half, Martin struck the post, and then on the second effort, Broguiards hits the side netting, and I thought Montreal no doubt started the second half as the better side, and they were rewarded with that when in the 52nd minute they got one back. It's Broguiards scoring from Mihajlovic to make it 2-1 in favor of NYCFC. It was almost 2-2 in the 57th minute when Johnson denied Mihajlovic, and then on the second effort, Johnson had to make another save, this time to Mihajlovic. But there was no doubt that Montreal was pushing for the second goal, and NYCFC, I mean, the momentum that they had in the first half, it was all gone. Like, they looked like they were rattled in this game, and in the 62nd minute, it looked like Montreal has tied the game up when Kyoto basically puts it into the back of the net, but for the second week in a row, Montreal's second goal was disallowed. That it was disallowed this time because of offside, and also for the second week in a row, Montreal immediately rattled after they gave up their second goal. I mean, seriously, this is one thing that I feel like Montreal and Wilfred Nancy need to work on his team. Like this has happened too many times in this early season where you just feel like when a goal is disallowed, there just feels like an error that just gone out of this team in that self-belief, because just 2 minutes after that goal was disallowed, NYCFC would restore their 2-goal advantage, and it's Magno who, he really was trying to score a goal in this one, finally got one here from Jason and Rodriguez to make it 3-1 in favor of NYCFC, and the momentum, which was in Montreal favor in the start of the second half, switched right back to NYCFC. And then in the 83rd minute, it would be 4-1 as Thiago would make it 4-1 to 4-1 in this game, and I thought Breeza should have saved that. I mean, you know, it was not a good goal from Thiago with the way that he kind of hit that one weakly, and that Breeza, as good as he has been with Montreal this season, especially in CCL, that's one that he definitely would love to have back. But in the end, NYCFC were able to win 4-1 in this one. Shots in this one, 13 shots apiece for both of these teams. 7 shots on goal for the 3 that Montreal has. 4 shots off target for the 7 that Montreal has. 2 shots that was blocked for the 3 that Montreal has. And possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that Montreal has in this game. And by the way, you know, when you look at both of these teams, you can definitely see that both of these teams were not starting their strongest squad. But in the end, it was NYCFC who, you know, I know this season we talk about Montreal being a deep team, but, you know, I feel like we're starting to kind of almost getting the same thing that we saw with Columbus, where maybe Montreal is not as deep as what we thought they were, because you know this was a game where, you know, for most of the time they didn't had most of their starters, though I think Kyoto did kind of came in late in this game, and same goes with Mihajlovic, and yet they still weren't able to get all 3 points in this game against an NYCFC team that did not have Maxi Morales and Tati Castellanos in this game. But now moving on in terms of the next match is going to be Columbus and Toronto FC. Now this one was a very evenly matched game, and you know, I think many people thought that this game would end in a draw, but in the end, Columbus was able to get the victory and kind of get a come from behind victory in this game too. Because in the 6th minute, TFC looked to score the first goal as Okolo just hits it one straight to Room. Zarian then tried his trademark 22-yard free kick that just gone wide, but then in the 13th minute, TFC would take the lead, and it's Jimenez continue to start off his career with TFC on a bang as he scored his second goal in the last 2 games from Pozuelo and Osorio to make it 1-0 in favor of Toronto. Columbus looked to equalize in the 24th minute, but Barry hits one straight to Bono. Then Room had to deny Petrasso, and again, it was a very even game with both teams getting some chances early in this one. And the game looked like it was tied in the 30th minute when Etienne puts it into the back of the net, but the goal was disallowed for offside. Bono then denied Yoruba, and then Etienne hits one straight to Bono as the crew was definitely trying to press to get the equalizer right before halftime. But we do head to halftime with Toronto leading 1-0 against Columbus. Now in the second half, Room denied Achara from close range before Bono absolutely robbed Mensah, who had a free header in the 18-yard box. Like usually when Mensah gets a free header like that, he doesn't miss very often, but Bono with an incredible save there. And again, you know, the second half, the start of it looked very similar to the first half. Some even chances for both of these teams, but eventually Columbus would get one in the back of the net, and it's Zarian who, again, they said on the Columbus feed, this is now his 6th consecutive game with at least a goal. I mean, he is just red hot right now, going back to last year, as here he scored from Etienne and Moreira to make it get 1-1 in this one, and then 9 minutes later it would be 2-1 in favor of Columbus, as it's Etienne who assisted in the last goal we get on the score sheet, as he scored here from Mensah and Zarian to make it 2-1 in favor of Columbus. And you can definitely see the momentum was all with the crew after that second goal. Like they really kind of just turned this game upside down with the way that TFC were leading 1-0 at one point, and now it's 2-1 in a span of just 9 minutes. Zardes had a chance to make it 3-1, but he blasted wide from 16 yards out. I even wrote momentum was all with the crew, and they were pressing to try to get that third goal to shut the door. Etienne then blasted high from 10 yards out before Diaz. Oh my goodness, this should have been 3-1 here, as he was wide open around 12 yards out and had an empty net to shoot, and he just missed out one wide. I mean, it is not very often you see a player or with the likes of Luis Diaz miss that one. Although I will say that Luis Diaz, he's been kind of struggling with the crew, and he's been kind of relegated to being a substitute in these last couple of games. And yeah, I mean, that is one that kind of sums up why he's been relegated to the substitute bench, because that one clearly should have been into the back of the net. But despite the missed chances that Columbus had, you know, Toronto didn't really press late in this game, and the crew was easily able to walk out with a 2-1 victory. Shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 8 that TFC had, 7 shots on goal for the 6 that TFC had, 5 shots off target for the 2 that TFC had, 1 shot that was blocked for the none that TFC had, and TFC had the better position, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that the Columbus Crew has in this game. But in the end, in an even game like that, Columbus just was a little bit more clinical in this one. And, for Toronto, the rough start continue. Now are still looking to try to get their first win under Bob Ratley, and it's going to have to wait until next week. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is Inter Miami versus LAFC, and I'm not going to lie, if there is a game that I would say is the most boring game of this week, this is the one. I mean, this was a game where, I was lucky the fact that I was able to write so much notes in this game because there was nothing happen in this one other than the fact that LAFC did score the 2 goals to walk away with all 3 points. And not to mention the fact that this game also was on Twitter, and that, as you expected, Twitter is obviously terrible, and the commentary in this one is even worse. I mean, yeah, I definitely feel bad and send my condolence to anyone that actually watched this game that are not Miami or LAFC fan, because again, it was a really slow game of how this one went, and we're kind of fortunate the fact that there was actually a goal that was scored in this one. But in the first half, as I mentioned, not much happened early in this game. The first shot came in the 17th minute as Malta blasted into the stands. Shots was only 1-1 through 30 minutes. I mean, if you're a neutral and you decide to turn off this game, I don't blame you whatsoever, because again, there was just no chance whatsoever. It was so tight throughout the entire first half of this one. Though in the 40th minute, the best chance finally came as Crépeau had to deny Malta from close range. But then 5 minutes later, LAFC would take the lead. It's Opoku, that one that scores to give LAFC the 1-0 lead. And just after when Opoku scored that opening goal, Inter Miami were down to 10 men as Breck Shea, of course, commit a denial of goal score opportunity. I think he pulled back Brian Rodriguez there as he got through on goal. But yeah, I mean, that is definitely a textbook definition of dog so. And coming into this game, I knew that Inter Miami was going to be facing a mountain, but now it seems like they're probably not going to win this one with a red card happen. Though, as I said, it is LAFC, and I've said before how whenever LAFC went up a man, they always tends to struggle. Though it seemed like this season they're starting to put that narrative behind, because this is the second consecutive game that they have been able to go up a man because their opponent had a red card, and they kind of did okay in this game. I mean, not as good as what we saw last week when they were facing against the Portland Timbers, where they absolutely blitzed the Timbers as soon as they went up a man. But we do head to halftime, 1-0 in this one. And in the second half, Rodriguez just puts it wide from close range before Taylor hits one straight to Crépeau. And again, not much chances, or actually, there was much more chances in the start of the second half. But it turns out that was actually the only 2 chances we were going to get until we fast forward into the 78th minute, where Arango almost made it 2-0 as he struck the post from 18 yards out. But eventually, it was 2-0 in favor of LAFC, as Tajiri Shradi would score his first goal for LAFC coming off the bench to make it 2-0. And really, as the time winds down, Miami did start to try to push one back. Lassiter had a chance for a consolation in the 6-minute stoppage time, but he blasted wide from close range. And yeah, in the end, it was a 2-0 win for LAFC in this one, and the shots in this one, only 13 shots combined for both of these teams. 7 shots compared to just 6 that LAFC had. Both teams had 2 shots on goal, 2 shots off target compared to 4 that Inter Miami has. 1 shot that was blocked compared to 2 that LAFC had. And possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Inter Miami has. And like I said, it was not really a good game to watch if you're a neutral, but I'm pretty sure the winner of this team, which is LAFC, they wouldn't mind. I mean, this was definitely not a vintage performance for LAFC, but it's also kind of a performance you usually see road team wins, where they're trying to limit the chances that the home team of course had, and maybe score a couple of goals to grind out the result, and that is exactly what they did in this game against Inter Miami. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Dynamo and the Vancouver Whitecaps. So the good news is, this game that I fear that it was going to end scoreless, and that I fear that there was nothing going to happen because both of these teams were actually still searching for their first goal of the season. Well, it turns out that was not the case. In fact, this actually was kind of entertaining at times, especially in the first half, because 2 minutes into the game, Hassau had to tip Quintero dangerous cross in the box. Darwin Quintero would turns out to have a monster game in this one. Before 3 minutes later, Dahomey puts it wide from close range, and then Vera puts it high from 17 yards out. And again, for a game that I thought it was going to be relatively boring, there was some early chances, and I think even on the Dynamo feed they said that both of these teams they're looking to try to go for it, and especially Paulo Nakamura even said that they're gonna be more open in this game, and they're going to really trying to attack Vancouver in this one. Though in the 14th minute, Vancouver did get the opening goal, and it's Cavallini who scored his first goal of what seems like for a while from Dahomey, and goal to make it 1-0 in favor of the Whitecaps. I mean, that goal has to mean a lot to Lucas Cavallini, who has really struggled with the Whitecaps. And at one point, we thought that he was going to be sold off this off season, but now he does get his starting spot back. Well, at least on a temporary basis, because Brian White is still coming back from an injury, and this goal would definitely make the decision a little bit tougher for Vanni Sartini, whether if Brian White does get back healthy, whether he's going to continue to start Cavallini or White is going to be back in that starting role. But in the 19 minutes, Steris almost made it 1-1 and almost scored his debut goal with the Dynamo, but he just heads it wide from close range. But there was no doubt that Houston was starting to control possession, and Vancouver was going with their usual kind of sitting back and trying to hit teams on the counterattack. Carrasquilla had a shot that was clear off the line by Youngworth, and then on the follow-up, Bear had a chance in the back post, but he could not head it wide. But in the 34th minute, Houston finally got the equalizer, and it's Quintero scoring from Bear and Carrasquilla to tie the game up at 1 apiece. It was almost 2-1 just 4 minutes later, as Quintero almost scored the second goal from close range, only for Hasal to deny him there. But we do head to halftime with the score tied up at 1 apiece in this game. But in the second half, we wouldn't stay tied very long, because in the 49th minute, Quintero would score his second goal from Ferreira to make it 2-1 in favor of Houston. And I think after this game, it is pretty much clear to say that Quintero still has it. I mean, I know some people have talked about how Quintero might be a little bit washed as now he is getting up to his age. But in this game, we started to see kind of the Darwin Quintero that I saw during his time with Minnesota. And yeah, I mean, what a goal this was from Quintero there to give his team the lead. Although in the 66th minute, Vancouver tried to get the equalizer as Brown hits it just high over the bar. Ferreira then tried to score his first ever MLS goal, but missed wide. I mean, Sebastian Ferreira still have not got off the score sheet, and you can definitely sense that he is kind of frustrated that he hasn't get off the mark yet. I mean, he did end up on the assist chart, but as a goal scorer like him, he would definitely love to get on the goal scoring chart too, but unable to do so once again in this one. Blackman then struck the post, and then on the follow-up, Caicedo header was blocked off the line by Dorsey. I mean, this was kind of a crazy sequence in the Dynamo box, but the Dynamo were able to escape without giving up the equalizer. Goal then hits a volley over through the bar, as you can definitely see Vancouver was trying to push for the equalizer, but then Rodriguez almost made it 3-1 as he struck the post on a volley shot in the 90th minute. But in the end, it was Houston that is able to walk away with their first win of the season as they win 2-1 against the Vancouver Whitecaps. Shots in this game, again, it was a relatively entertaining game, and a lot of shots too. 16 shots compared to 17 that the Whitecaps had. Shots on goal, Houston had 4 shots on goal compared to 2 that Vancouver has. 10 shots off target compared to 5 that the Dynamo has. 7 shots that was blocked compared to 5 that Vancouver has. And possession-wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession that the Whitecaps has in this game. And, for the Whitecaps, yeah, it's been a rough start to the season under Vanni Sartini. And I know it is still very early in the season, but, I feel like maybe Sartini, this is really now the first real test under his rim, where this team is clearly facing adversity, and it's going to be interesting to see whether or not if they can dig out of it, because I really think in the first 3 game that they have played, they haven't really looked that impressive, especially going forward on the attack. Though again, I think a lot of that has to do with them missing Brian White, and that again, we saw last season when Brian White is on alongside with Ryan Gaul, this team can be a very dangerous team. And that I think maybe when they do get Brian White back into this team should be performing much better than what they have done in the first 3 game of the season. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the next 4 games that happen on the busy Saturday night action. So moving on, in terms of the next match, is DC and Chicago, and the Israel Henriksen era has officially lifted off, because not only the fact that the Fire remain as one of the few teams that have yet to concede a goal, but they also scored their first 2 goals of the season and get their first win of the season on the road against DC United. Now, early on in this game, there was not much happening once again in the first 14 minutes. The first shots came actually in the 14th minute, as Slonina had to rob Kamara, who had a free header from 4 yards out. Hamid then denied Pineda from close range before Herbert hits it straight to Hamid. Skunvich then had to clear so shots that was off the line. As the Fire, they was definitely pushing for the opener after, early on. It definitely looked like they were maybe going to concede the opening goal in this one. And eventually they would get the opener, as in the 32nd minute. Ivanov would score the Fire first goal of the season to make it 1-0 in favor of the Fire. Though DC looked to try to quickly respond, as Skunrich missed just wide there of almost an instant response. Flores then blazed one into the stands, as DC again looked to try to get the equalizer before halftime. But before halftime, Chicago almost got the 2-0 lead, as Hamid had to deny Shabilcom for 14 yards out. But we do head to halftime with the Fire leading 1-0 in a game that I thought it was relatively even, and there was some momentum swing throughout the first half too. But as I said, the Fire leads 1-0 heading into the second half. And in the second half, we fast forward into the 80th minute mark, because apparently the highlights that I watched in this game didn't show what happened between the 45th to the 80th minute mark. So I'm assuming nothing really happened during that point. I mean, unless if there's some crazy thing that happened during that I didn't see, I do apologize, because like I said, I didn't watch this game. I've only watched the highlights of this one. But as we fast forward in the 80th minute, the Fire did get the second goal. It's Bornstein scoring from Jimenez and Sekulic to make it 2-0 in favor of Chicago. So a rare goal for Jonathan Bornstein, and he didn't actually hit that one off of a header too, because usually when you have defenders scoring, they might have scored off of a header, but this was just generally him kind of popping up in the 18-yard box and just kind of scoring from there, and also not from a set piece. Though in the 84th minute, Slonina had to deny Naha, and then on the second effort, Heinz Ike puts it over the board. Gutierrez then hits one into the side netting before Hamid had to deny Shaqiri in the 3rd minute of stoppage time. Again, both teams getting some chances of getting the next goal, but in the end, the Fire probably played their best game of the season in this one against DC, as they win 2-0 in this one. And the shots in this one, 15 shots compared to 13 that the Fire has, 8 shots on goal compared to 5 that DC had. Both teams had 3 shots off target, 7 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Chicago has. And possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that the Fire has in this game. And for DC, we talk about it, of how, in the first 2 games, yes, they were able to win their first 2 games, but how much is that has to tell because of the fact that they were facing against easy opponents such as Charlotte and FC Cincinnati. And in this game, when they did have to face a Fire team that I really think, as much as, Israel Henriksen Air hasn't really got off to a complete lift off of them, having scored a goal and also having conceded a goal, there was some good moments in their first 2 games. And in this one, it finally shows that maybe the Fire can get out of that habit of being an inconsistent team. I mean, still, time will tell whether or not if that is going to be the case, because I've seen this before when they do well on the road, and then the very next game they had a big letdown and they looked like one of the worst team in the league. But at least for this game, this was definitely an impressive victory for the Fire, going on the road against DC to get all 3 points in this game, and also shutting down that high-powered DC attack. I mean, it's not very often that her and Lasada team get shut out in this one, but they did do so, and yeah, credit the Fire getting all 3 points and getting their first win on the road against DC. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is New England and RSL. So, last season when RSL made that incredible run to the Western Conference Final, they not only had to face a lot of adversity throughout that run, but also they had a ton of magical moments that got them to the Western Conference Final. And, I've said coming into the season, as great as that run was, I don't think that's going to be a recipe for the regular season. Well, it seemed like RSL might have laughed that in my face, because they literally used some of that magic that they had in the Western Conference Final run to feel what would be an incredible comeback in this game against the New England Revolution. And also, depend on who you ask, you can either say this is an incredible comeback from RSL or an absolute implosion by New England late in this game. Now, in the first half, I just want to mention that this was a snow classico, and I forgot to also mention the fact that, in some of these games, there was actually snow that was found in this one, as it seems like the northeast corridor for this match week was flooded by snow. So you definitely saw some game that, in the northeast, like this one and the one earlier between NYCFC versus Montreal, that it was snowing during that one, and they had to kind of put the orange ball out. But this was really the one where you can actually see snow on the ground, and it was very, very fake, much faker than what we saw in that CCL game between the Revs and Pumas. But with the way that it was another snow classico, not only the fact that I wish I actually watched the full match of this one, because you know how much I love snow game, but I feel like it's going to be a good game, because anytime when there's a snow classico, that there's going to be some crazy thing that would happen in this one. Though early on, not much really happened between both of these teams, and it just feels like the snow was actually causing havoc for both of these team on the attack. Like, they just couldn't move the ball very, very well. And keep in mind, this is in a snowy service on the turf, so I guess maybe playing in snow on turf is not as good as playing in snow on natural grass. I've seen back on Wednesday when New England did play against Pumas, they kind of had no problem with it. Though that being said, that was also a game where the turf wasn't actually covered in snow, so maybe that, of course, is the case. But the first opportunity came in the 21st minute as Tristanson hits one straight to McMath. Buxa then struck the post from close range in the 29th minute as New England was pressing for the opener, and they got the opener right on the stroke of halftime. And it's Boateng scoring from Buxa and Ferrell to give New England a 1-0 lead. And by the way, for the Revs, as it is the case for most MLS team that is still in CCL, they didn't really start their strong squad, and they didn't really put out some of their starter until the second half. But speaking of the second half, as we head to halftime, 1-0 in this game in favor of the Revs. The snow definitely kind of let up a little bit. It was falling very heavily in the first half, but it definitely let up and not falling as hard as it has in the first half. By the way, you gotta give a lot of props to this grounds crew at Gillette Stadium. The fact that, in the first half, they really had to work hard in terms of trying to make sure the lines are not covered. And, there was time where you couldn't even see the 18-yard box, and you couldn't even see the sideline. And, if you're a referee, that makes the job even much more difficult, because let's say if there is a foul that happened in the 18-yard box, that's gonna maybe bring some controversy of whether it should have been a penalty and it should have been a free kick, because you just don't know where exactly the line is. And speaking of controversy, we did have some controversy late in this game too. But again, the grounds crew did a good job in terms of actually, clearing the 18-yard box and also making the lines in the center circle, and also the byline there to make sure that the snow, of course, is not covering that, and the referee will know if the ball actually went out of play or not. But in the 52nd minute, Edwards did deny Wood from close range as Cordova hits one straight to Edwards. Then Ruiz skies one over the bar as RSL was really starting to push for the equalizer, and definitely were the better team heading into the second half. And it feels like maybe Bruce Arena realized that, because he decided to bring in the cavalry. Altidore, Leggett, and Heel was all summoned in this one as he started to bring his starters in. And it turns out that actually worked out perfectly, because in the 62nd minute, Josie Altidore, just 2 minutes after coming off the bench, scored his first goal for New England, as he scored here from Buxa and Leggett to make it 2-0 in favor of the Revs. And you're just thinking, yep, that's pretty much game set and match. Anytime when you're a team that is look like is going to get the equalizer, and then literally against the run of play, the other team was able to get that second goal, it most of the time I wouldn't blame the team started to have that demoralizing kind of feeling, especially for road team too, like RSL. I would have think that they would just go away, but they didn't. In the 65th minute, Wood had a shot that was blocked off the line by McNamara, and McNamara actually not only blocked that one off the line, but it was actually he actually pushed that one onto the post. I'm not sure, was he meant to do that, but yeah, that was kind of an interesting kind of clearance off the line to kind of block that one off the post. Buxa then hits the side netting in the 75th minute as the refs were looking for that third goal, but then in the 78th minute, this is when the comeback began. Cordova would score from Wood to put RSL on the board and pull within one for RSL in this game against New England. I believe that's Cordova's first goal for RSL and his first career MLS goal, so congratulations for that. But really, this was not good defending from New England in the defensive end, and the defense really just kind of imploded for the refs late in this one, because just 10 minutes later, the game would tie up as Justin Glad would score from Ruiz to tie the game up at 2 apiece. Now, this is where the controversy happened in this game, where it definitely looked like the ball actually moved when Ruiz basically swing it in. I mean, you can clearly see it as Ruiz was going to kick that ball. The ball did move back about a yard or two, and by rule, they had to retake the free kick because you know, on a dead ball situation, you cannot have the ball move unless your teammate basically decide to feed the ball back toward you, which we have seen that happen before in a free kick, but because of the fact the ball moved just a little bit, and you know, the wind was also a problem in this game too, especially on the RSL end, where the wind was really howling, which that also kind of makes the comeback even more impressive, because not just the snowy condition, but with the fact that RSL still were able to come back, have to battle that wind, that has to be very, very impressive. But again, you know, there was definitely a case that should have been retaken, and unfortunately, I think that play also is not reviewable by VAR. So yeah, unfortunately, that's just one of those unfortunate sequences that the referee just missed it. And yeah, I mean, I will say that as bad as that blown call was, you know, the defending from the refs on that set piece was not good whatsoever. Like, you know, when that ball was delivered in the box, you can definitely see that there were a couple of RSL players that had a chance to make a free header, and again, you know, just not good defending there from the refs on the set piece. And in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, just as we thought that this game was going to end in a 2-2 draw, RSL would complete an incredible comeback. And it's Tate Schmidt scoring for Loftusson to make it 3-2 in favor of RSL. And again, you know, New England just switched off at the end of this game, thinking that, you know, they can just maybe clear the ball away and just salvage a 2-2 draw. But they give up the 3rd goal here to give RSL all 3 points in this one. And yeah, in the end, RSL with an incredible comeback in this one against New England. And the shots in this one, I mean, despite the fact that it was an incredible comeback, I feel like RSL kind of deserved this win too, because when you look at the stats, RSL wasn't really outplayed. Like, they actually had the more of the shots. 19 shots committed to 13 that New England has. 6 shots on goal committed to 5 that the refs had. Both teams had 6 shots off target. 2 shots that was blocked committed to 7 that RSL had. And possession-wise, 50% possession for both of these teams. Though, again, like I said, for the refs, they would be very frustrated with this game. And again, this was also kind of a game that, you know, with MLS team and CCL, they usually tends to punt games away, but this is not the way that they want to punt the game away, especially anytime when you give up a 2-0 lead at home, and give up a 2-0 lead at home to lose 3-2 in the last 12 minutes. Yeah, that is going to definitely take a confident hit, and let's just hope that that's not going to be the case heading into the next game against Pumas, because, you know, it's one thing to see kind of an unfortunate implosion for an MLS team against another MLS team, but let's just hope that that's not going to happen against Pumas, and not going to be similar to what we see here in this sequence. Because imagine if New England did implode late in that game against Pumas and give up 3 straight goals. Oh boy, that game of course will go to a PK shootout, but it will just absolutely shatter New England confidence even heading into that PK shootout against Pumas. And like I said, let's just hope that that is not the case. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is FC Cincinnati against Orlando City. So this was really one of the rare times where I've said a team that received the free points of the week did not actually take advantage, because FC Cincinnati decided that today is the day that we are going to cause a shock in MLS and cause that classic kind of moment, which makes MLS so good, and also kind of so unpredictable too, because we've seen this before, where, you know, a team that you thought that they had no shots of winning and no business of getting all 3 points did so at the end of the game. And it turns out the recipe for FC Cincinnati to get all 3 points against Orlando City just make sure a couple of former Atlanta United players perform at their best and able to carry them to get all 3 points in this game, because it turns out that both Brendan Vasquez and Alec Khan have had a monster game in this one. Now, early on, Cincinnati actually got off to a good start. Kubo did put one just wide from close range, as, again, I thought Cincinnati started off well in this game, and they were rewarded in the 13th minute as Vasquez would score from Acosta to give FC Cincinnati a 1-0 lead, and this was certainly a long time coming for Brandon Vasquez of scoring a goal. Like, in this first two games, I think he has been one of the most unluckiest number 9, and probably belong in that striker curse club in the first two games, with the way that he just had so much opportunity to score a goal, and he wasn't able to do so, either by bad luck or just not able to be clinical in terms of the finishing. But this time, Vasquez make no mistake and give Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. And then Alec Khan denied Pato on the header in the 17th minute as Orlando started to press for an equalizer. And also, little do we know that this was becoming the Alec Khan show after the 17th minute, because in the 26th minute, he tipped Urso's shot over the bar, and after making a couple of good saves, eventually Orlando did get the equalizer, and it's Junior Urso scoring from Torres to tie the game up at 1 apiece. So Facundo Torres, of course, getting on the assist chart, but still, I feel like, I know there's a lot of people have started to question the Facundo Torres kind of signing, especially with the way that he hasn't really been playing that well to justify the price tag. And in some way it is kind of true, because I think when you look at the first three games, I mean, I thought he had a good debut in that game against Montreal, but he's been kind of lackluster in these last two games. And again, when you are able to come into this league with that big price tag in your head, you are expected to perform, and right now it just feels like in the early days, Facundo Torres clearly have not lived up to the price tag that Orlando City paid him in the offseason. But still, he did get on the assist chart in this game, and again, Orlando tied the game up at 1 apiece, and that would be the score heading into the second half. And in the second half, Galese denied Vasquez on the header, and once again, Cincinnati was off to a good start coming out of the break, and once again, they were rewarded with a goal, as in the 53rd minute, it's Vasquez again scoring from Baji and Kubo to make it 2-1 in favor of FC Cincinnati. It was almost 3-1 when Kubo blazed it wide from close range before Pato puts it over the bar from 20 yards out. And then Vasquez was looking to try to score a hat-trick, and I have no idea what was Galese thinking here, trying to come off his lines. I mean, this was not like Galese needs to come off his lines, as Vasquez was going one-on-one with the goalkeeper. I mean, this was just kind of a through ball where Galese just kind of came out, almost like he's trying to, at the last minute, clear that one away, as we've seen before with what goalkeepers try to do when they aggressively coming off his lines. But this was not even close. Like, it was pretty clear that Vasquez basically got there in time, and when that happened, yeah, that means the goalkeeper is in no man position, and Galese was no doubt in no man position here, but Vasquez just unable to try to shoot beyond Galese. And also the fact that, I think Galese was also trying to kind of like make a save there, which well, actually, yeah, Galese was trying to make a save there, but with the way that ball kind of go just wide like that ball actually went like when Vasquez basically shoot that one, that was like about 40 yards out, that just went wide, and it just shows you why in the world did Galese come off the line so aggressive there. And he is very fortunate that he did not get paid for doing, or he did not get punished because of that mistake. But in the 83rd minute, Michel did put one into the stands, and then Khan denying Carlos on the header. And there was no doubt late in the game, Orlando was throwing the kitchen sink as FC Cincinnati was holding on to this 2-1 lead. And I just had a feeling that, yeah, maybe they're not going to hold on, because I feel like it would be a very Cincinnati way for them to not able to hold on to the league, as we've seen so many times before. But to everybody's surprise, they did. They hold on to win 2-1 in this game, and finally snapping a 14-game losing streak going back to last year. Like, I know FC Cincinnati was on a long losing streak, but I didn't know that it was actually 14 games that the Orlando City TV fee mention at the end of the game. But yeah, they get their first win in what seems like forever. And the shots in this one, 18 shots compared to 9 that Cincinnati has, 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that Cincinnati has, 8 shots off target compared to 4 that Cincinnati has, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Cincinnati has, and possession-wise, 70% possession compared to 30% possession that FC Cincinnati has in this game. And, I think for Cincinnati, as much as they were kind of outshot in this one, they deserve this victory. And this is something that I think Cincinnati fans been long waiting for, because after so much pain that they have suffered, it's great to see that the MLS gods did at least show some mercy to Cincinnati fans and give them a massive 3 points. But for Orlando City, I know it might be too early to panic after 3 games, but yeah, this is not a good look. Anytime when you lose to FC Cincinnati and not able to take advantage of the free points of the week, there's definitely going to be question that is going to be asked, and especially that defense too, which I thought this was one of the worst defensive display that Orlando City has had for a team that is very good on the defensive end. But you also got to question the attack too in this game. I mean, the attack, this has been a problem we saw last season with Orlando City, and it started to kind of come back on them, where they just aren't able to find a reliable goal scorer. Though that being said, they also miss a lot of chances, and they also met a guy named Alicon that he was refused to be beaten, besides the goal that he conceded right on the stroke of halftime. But that being said, moving on into the last game on this board is the Union versus the San Jose Earthquakes. So we go from one of the most surprising game, or probably the most surprising result of this weekend's action, to the least surprising result of this weekend's action, because I knew the Quakes were gonna lose. This was as clear as an automatic loss for the Quakes as I would have thought that Cincinnati would easily lose to Orlando City. And unlike how this game, we actually saw that magical MLS moment where the team that is huge underdog able to overcome that adversity, we did not see the same thing in this one. And in some way, the scoreline doesn't actually indicate the fact that this game was actually very lopsided. Now, in the first half, the Quakes did decide to go for at the back in this game, which, that's kind of good news for Almeida to finally decided that, yeah, the free at the back system just does not work. But here's the problem that Almeida decided to use, and just also an example of why he is clearly sabotaging this team, so he want to get out of this team and forcing the front office to fire him, is the lineup for this. I mean, it make absolutely no sense in terms of the starting 11 that he put out in this game, and especially it also doesn't make sense the fact that he still continued to play players out of position, even if he is going with a normal formation coming into this game. And it kind of showed in the first 20 minutes of this game, as I thought the Union was dominating this game early, controlling the possession. And in the 22nd minute, they almost made it 1-0 if it wasn't for Mark Sinkowski absolutely robbed Hario on the header. Hario basically had a free header into 18-yard box. I have no idea who was marking him there, but Mark Sinkowski, as we have seen in these first couple of games, making some big save. And I think if there is one player that so far has really lived up to his talent, it has to be JT Mark Sinkowski. And I also had to feel bad for him too, because he is being hung out to dry game after game with the bad defense that he has in front of him. And in the 24th minute, the Union eventually got their deserved opener, as Corey Burke would score from Santos to make it 1-0 in favor of the Quakes. I mean, again, just terrible defending from the Quakes. Santos just completely turned Jackson Yu there. And then who in the world was marking Burke in the 18-yard box? I don't know. But yeah, the Union were up 1-0 in this one. Kikanovic tried to get a quick response for the Quakes, but he puts it wide from close range. And then Santos just missed wide from close range the 30th minute. I mean, I was very surprised that Sergio Santos did not get on the score sheet, because he had tons of chances in this one, and probably could have scored at least 2 or maybe even a hat-trick if he was a little bit more clinical in this one. But I even wrote, the back line, they were once again in shambles. The amount of time the Union was able to attack with freedom and also breaking this weak Quakes defense down, it was just it's almost like the Quakes are just inviting for the Union to eventually score that second goal. And again, Santos had a chance to score his first and the Union's second goal, but he puts it high from close range as we head to halftime. somehow just 1-0 in favor of the Union. And you're just thinking, well, the Quakes are down 1-0 heading into halftime. Maybe they're going to. No. Mark Sinkowski, besides denying Santos from close range, and I wrote that Santos, of course, could have had a hat trick by now. A penalty was given to the Union after Jackson Yu basically handballed it into the box. Now, originally, I thought there would have been two different, or there was another sequence that it could lead to a foul, as I think it was Calvo, that the one that brought down one of the Union player in the box, and there was no penalty that was given. But then on this other part of this attacking sequence, I mean, it was pretty clear that Jackson Yu handballed that one. And in some way, I really feel bad for Jackson Yu, because I know he's been ridiculed by the Quakes fan base in these last two seasons, because he has definitely not performed well, and that he's also kind of being the latest victim of joining the national team and then coming back from the club level to be just a shell of his former self. I mean, it just feels like anytime when a Quakes player gets to represent the U.S. national team, yeah, let's just we're going to be very nervous about that, because it just has happened so many times. Like, it happened to David Bingham when he went to the national team and he kind of looked a shell of his old self, and it also happened to Nick Lima too, going to the national team, and then when he comes back, he was a shell of his old self. And I just fear it's happening to Jackson Yu again. Though I will say that a part of that, at least for this season, mainly due to the fact that he's clearly playing out of position, and that, how many times I have to say, he's not a center back. Like, you can clearly see he doesn't have the ability to be a center back, and that it's insane, the fact that he continued to play that spot, even though he clearly feels very uncomfortable with it. But yeah, after the penalty that was given, Gastak basically made it 2-0. It was a great penalty from Daniel Gastak, trying to do a little Panenka there on Mark Sinkowski, which worked out perfectly. Though Mark Sinkowski did deny Gastak in the 70th minute, and as time winds down, the Quakes, they kind of finally woke up after just a sloppy game. Though I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Union, they kind of took their foot off the gas. Like, they were trying to shut up shop to trying to preserve this 2-0 lead. And again, they could have made it 3-0 in the 6th minute. And again, Santos could have scored his well-deserved goal, but he wasn't able to put that one on target, even when he rounded Mark Sinkowski there. And also, by the way, just a quick note, that was career win number 100 for Jim Curtin. So Jim Curtin, with a great career milestone there, getting his 100 win in his MLS coaching career. But in the end, the Union was able to win 2-0 in this game against the Quakes. And the shots in this one, 12 shots compared to 9 that the Quakes had, 1 shots on goal compared to 6 that the Union has, 3 shots off target compared to 5 that the Quakes had. Both teams had 3 shots out of block, and possession-wise, 31% possession compared to 69% possession that the Quakes has in this game. So unlike Orlando City, where they didn't take advantage of the free points sweepstake, the Union did exactly that. And again, for the Quakes, I mean, there's really not much I can add other than the fact that I knew this was going to be a loss, and that, I guess, see you in 2023. I mean, I can see the frustration in the fan base, and I'm frustrated with seeing how, after just 3 games, it feels like I'm already giving up on the team. But that's kind of the cold reality, because you can clearly see like, my vision of this team. I knew coming into this season that as much as they did build a relatively decent squad, it's not a squad for Mateus Almeida. And with the way that Almeida has openly criticized the front office, either in a good way or in a bad way, you can clearly see he doesn't want to be there. And that, I mean, again, I won't be surprised in these next couple of games if this Quakes team continue to go on this losing streak and find themselves rock bottom in the league. The front office has no choice. They have to fire him. I mean, right now, the reason why I feel like they still haven't fired him is that it's not really a good look to trying to fire a guy that just a couple of games into the season, where you could have just literally done it in the off season. But now more of me say that maybe it's better to just do it that way, even it is still not a good look, rather than just kind of continue you with Almeida, because I just don't think Almeida brings anything left in this team. You can clearly see he's not even interested in this team anymore, and he's clearly continued to sabotage this team in a way where this team could really be out of the playoff picture before we even get into the second month of the season. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 4 games that happened in the Saturday night action. So I'm actually recording this as it is halftime between Atlanta United versus Charlotte FC, and most likely I am going to miss a couple of minutes of the second half because I still have to finish reviewing these 4 games that is going to be wrapping up the Saturday action of match week number 3. So we go next to FC Dallas versus Nashville SC, and this one looked like it was going to finish 0-0. This looked like it was a classic Nashville SC road game where they were able to grind out a 0-0 result and get a point on the road, but then Dallas decided to say, no, we're going to get all 3 points in this game by scoring 2 quick goals in the last 5 minutes of this one. Now, early on, Cervania had a shot that was deflected just high before Ferreira just missed wide from close range, and I thought Dallas was in control early in this game, though Godoy had a opportunity as his shot was actually blocked by his own teammate Sapon, so that's definitely not a good moment for Nashville, not a good moment for Sapon or Godoy when, you had a shot that was blocked by your own teammate, though I don't know whether or not if that goal would have went in if that shot was not blocked by his own teammate in Sapon. Mukhtar then missed wide from long range, and then on the next sequence on the corner, Zimmerman almost hits it in from the corner. We know how dangerous he is in set pieces, especially in the corner, and he almost scored against his former team. But there was no doubt that Nashville was starting to get into this game after Dallas really kind of controlled the early bit of this one. Willis had to deny Cervania from long range in the 37th minute, and we had to have time scoreless between both of these teams. So we go to the second half, and yeah, the first 35 minutes of the second half, it was an absolute snooze fest. Like, nothing happened in the first 35 minutes. It was very tight, but I thought this favored Nashville because this is exactly what they want to do. They want to grind out a result and maybe nick a goal like they did against the Sounders on opening weekend. Though in the 81st minute, a penalty was given to Dallas as Ariola was brought down by Jack Mayer. They did go to VAR to check whether or not if that's the case, and the call was withstand. And in the 85th minute, Hara would puts away the penalty spot to give Dallas a 1-0 lead, and then 2 minutes later, they pretty much seal all 3 points, and it's Velasco on his debut scoring here for Cervania to make it 2-0 in favor of FC Dallas. I wrote goal of the week ? Because this was a messy-ass goal. I mean, Velasco basically just completely cut open this Nashville defense, and we know that this Nashville defense is no joke, so the fact that Alan Velasco basically cut them open like that is a rarity you see happening, and that, what a goal that was from Velasco, and I definitely think he has a good shout of potentially winning goal of the week, especially with such a great individual brilliance that he had in that goal. Willis then denied Ferreira in the near post as Dallas was trying to make it 3-0, but in the end, they were able to walk away with a 2-0 victory and only hand Nashville their 5th loss going back to last season. As the shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 5 that Nashville has, 5 shots on goal compared to nothing that Nashville has. Both teams have 3 shots off target, 5 shots on his block compared to 2 that Nashville has, and then possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Nashville has. And, Dallas, this is kind of what they did last season, where they kind of had a knack against some good team at home and able to beat them, and they did it again in this one against Nashville SC in a game where, again, we thought that this was going to end 0-0, and then Dallas decided that, yeah, we're going to take all 3 points in this one. Thank you very much. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, it's going to be Colorado and Sporting KC. So the Rapids are starting to look like themselves again after, the beginning of the season was an absolute disastrous, getting knocked out by Comunicaciones in CCL, and then that embarrassing display that they put against LAFC on opening day. But these last 2 games, they have got back-to-back victory and have kind of looked like the Robin Fraser kind of Rapids team that we seen last season. That is the reason why they finished first in the Western Conference. Now, early on, Abubakar just hits it wide before Rubio. I thought he should have scored against his former team, but he missed wide from 10 yards out. But there was no doubt it was all Colorado early in this game. And remember how Rubio missed that opportunity in the 13th minute? He won't miss this one in the 20th minute, and he would score against his former team from Estevez and Barrios to give the Rapids a 1-0 lead. It was almost 2-0 if it wasn't for Melia robbing Barrios as he was one-on-one with the goalkeeper. I mean, Melia is the best goalkeeper in the league, in my opinion, in terms of those one-on-one situations, and he denied Barrios there. And originally, there was actually going to be an offside call that was going to made, and the flag never went up. And yeah, I mean, now that if that one went in, it would have have counted and made it 2-0 in favor of the Rapids. And, you know, in the 38th minute, Sporting KC finally get their first shot as Duke was put over the bar from close range. Duke was actually subbed on in this game, I believe, for Felipe Hernandez, and, you know, that was kind of an interesting substitution, the fact that, you know, you see a player getting subbed out in the first half, but I'm not surprised considering, you know, this is Peter Vermees. You know, Peter Vermees is not afraid to make substitution when he doesn't feel like a player is doing well, which is kind of also odd to say, because he also is kind of maybe afraid to make substitution when it's late game. So it's kind of odd that Vermees makes substitution when he knows a player is not doing well and he's not afraid to take them off. But when it comes to late game substitution, yeah, he does not do that at all. But there was no doubt that Sporting KC finally woke up and pressed for the equalizer. But we do head to halftime with the Rapids leading 1-0. And in the second half, the Rapids would double their lead. It's Marc-Anthony Kaye scoring from Beta Shore and Price to make it 2-0. It was poor set-piece defending from Sporting KC. And yeah, I mean, we talk about the problem with SKC in terms of their defense this season, and this was one of the game where they just did not look good whatsoever, and they just let Marc-Anthony Kaye wide open there to score on the set piece. Actually, it was actually deflected. Mark can kind of redirect that one, but even then, you can't let him wide open like that in the 18-yard box. And yeah, the Rapids were up 2-0 at that point. Vujanovic tried to respond quickly for Sporting KC, but he missed wide from close range. Duke then just missed high from close range the 54th minute before Lewis heads it wide from close range. And then this is also where we get to a point where both teams kind of start having some half chances. Yarrow denied Espinosa in the 69th minute before Moore heads it wide from close range. And then late in this game, as the Rapids were looking to try to close this one out, Melia once again denying Barrios, who's trying to put a dangerous cross into the 6th. But in the end, the Rapids were able to walk away with a 2-0 victory against Sporting KC. And the shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 9 that the Rapids had. Both teams had 3 shots on goal. 5 shots off target compared to 3 that the Rapids had. 1 shot that was blocked compared to 7 that Sporting KC had. And possession-wise, 44% possession compared to 56% possession that Sporting KC has in this game. But yeah, in the end, Colorado Rapids, another win at home, and again, they start to look like that team that we know from last season, where it's a very organized team and a team that just does enough to get all 3 points. And let's see if they can continue to do so as we go along in these next couple of weeks. But now moving on in terms of the next match. So, you know, coming into this game, I know there's a lot of people saying that this is the litmus test for Austin FC against the Portland Timbers, because, you know, as much as Austin has been a free scoring team in their first 2 games, they've been playing two of the worst opponent in the Eastern Conference. And, you know, coming into this game against the Timbers, against a higher power attack, I thought they played very well in this one. I mean, I know in the end they didn't get anything out of this game, and I know people is going to point out that, yep, that first 2 games that Austin won was really just them playing against easy opponent. But I really think this was a game where I feel Austin kind of was hard done to not get a point, especially with the way that, you know, we know their finishing was absolutely lethal in the first 2 games. This one, they would have maybe be a little bit more clinical like they show in the first 2 games, or maybe not used up all their goals that they scored in the first 2 games and maybe save some for this one. Could have got a draw or even get a win in this game against the Timbers. Now, early on, Tuluma heads it wide from close range in the 18th minute before Nishgoda did flash it wide from close range, as the Timbers was definitely pressing early for the lead. Though Jerussi thought that he scored against the run of plays and give Austin the lead, but the goal, of course, was disallowed for offside in the 32nd minute. Tuluma then struck the post on the header. I mean, Bill Tuluma had a lot of chances in this game, and for a defender like him, you wouldn't expect him to have so many chances as he would in this one. And little did we know that he actually also got on the score sheet in this one too. But on the other end, Dominguez missed wide from a long-range effort before Rain puts a dangerous ball in, but Evas is just able to palm that one away before any Austin player can basically heads that one in. But there was no doubt that Austin, they woke up. They were pushing to try to get the opening goal before halftime, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, Ring flicked it wide from close range, but I really thought that it was a very stop and go second half, and there was a lot of whistle in the second half, and also a lot of yellow card too, like 6 yellow cards in a span of 15th minute. I mean, that referee was being very trigger happy in terms of handing out yellow card. And when I look at some of those play, I mean, yeah, some of them were deserve a yellow card, but I kind of also feel like maybe the referee was being a little bit aggressive and being very trigger happy in terms of pulling out his yellow card. But nevertheless, in the 61st minute, we got ourselves the opening goal of the game as Bill Tuluma. Again, he was very active in this game on the attack. He would score here from Chara to give the Timbers a 1-0 lead. It was not great defending whatsoever from Austin from the set piece. Like, you cannot let Tuluma have a free header like that. And yeah, Tuluma basically punished that Austin defense that was kind of optional on that set piece, and the Timbers were up 1-0 at that point. But Dominguez did fire one over the bar in the 70th minute before Ivasic has to tip Finley's cross over the bar. I mean, Finley was trying to do a little rando layout, but Ivasic was able to tip that one over. Then in the 75th minute, there was a chaos in the Timbers box, as there was actually an overhead cross that was clear off the line by a goal line clearance from Tuluma on Ring's header, and then there was like two different close range shot that was blocking that. I mean, it was a hectic kind of sequence that somehow Austin wasn't able to put one into the back net. And if you're a Portland Timbers fan, I'm pretty sure that the 20,000 so at Providence Park was breathing a huge sigh of relief of how chaotic that event, and yet we still are at 1-0 after that chaotic event. But there was no doubt that Austin was throwing the kitchen sink and trying to get the equalizer. And I also wrote, it's hold your breath time for the fans at Providence Park, because they've seen this story before. And a couple of years ago, I would guarantee that the Timbers were not able to hold on to this lead. But as I said before, they've been doing much better lately in terms of holding on leads and closing out games. Though Jerussi had a chance late from close range, but he fires it wide, and in the end, the Timbers able to preserve. I mean, they prefer to, of course, get 3 points, right? But they preserved the 1-0 victory in this one against Austin, and the shots in this one, 13 shots for the 4 that Los Verde has. No shots on goal for Austin. So despite the fact that Austin created a lot of chances, they didn't really test Ivasic in this one with 0 shots on goal compared to the 1 that the Timbers had. In fact, both teams didn't really put a lot of shots on goal and really test either of the goalkeeper. But the shots off target, 3 shots off target compared to 10 that Austin has. 4 shots that was blocked compared to 9 that the Timbers had, and possession-wise, 39% possession compared to 61% possession that Austin has in this game. And again, it was a relatively frustrating night for Austin, because I thought they played well in this game to deserve a point, but their finishing kind of let them down, and then that lapse of concentration that they had on that set piece was really the difference in this one. But now moving on into the last game on this board, and you notice this game is actually a game that happened as part of the matinee game, but the reason why I put this national televised game between the Sounders and the Galaxy last to review is because I was waiting for the highlights. I mean, I didn't watch this game, and usually I know with national television highlights that is uploaded onto the league's YouTube channel is going to take at least a day, and thankfully when it finally released, I was able to kind of watch it. Though again, it's not really a very in-depth kind of highlights, because there was actually a lot of things that happened in this game, and in some way this might be a classic example of a team that lost this game that was the better team and probably should have got at least a point or even all 3 points in this one. And early on, the Galaxy actually got the lead just 5 minutes in, as Chicharito would score from Rivalson and Edwards to make it 1-0 in favor of Galaxy. By the way, still no Ruidíaz and Ladero for the Sounders in this game, and my guess is they probably are just resting them, although I've heard of the fact that both of those guys are still suffering from injuries, and that the Sounders are really hoping that they can maybe at least have one of them, if not both of them, available off the bench in that game against Leon. I mean, they did well in that CCL game without both of those guys, but it's one thing to do well against Leon when they're playing at home, but it's a complete different thing when you have to go down to Mexico, where you really need your best player to step up to overcome the challenge of going on a road game in CCL and able to move on into the next leg. So we'll see whether or not if both of those guys are going to be ready for that second leg game against Leon down in Mexico. But that lead that the Galaxy had did not last long, because in the 17th minute, Morris would tie the game up at 1 apiece. I mean, it was poor defending from the Galaxy. And I feel like this game pretty much sums up the big issue that the Galaxy has been having for the past couple of seasons, which is they just cannot defend. Like, I know this season, in the first 2 games, they've done a very good job in terms of defending. Though, I will say that, the last game against Charlotte, yeah, it was against a relatively weak kind of team that didn't really offer a lot of challenge on them, and that, not to mention, the Galaxy pretty much dominated that game for the majority of the one. And the game against NYCFC, I thought they actually looked really decent in the back line, but this one was a classic example of how their back line once again let them down again, because in the 45th minute and 1 minute into stoppage time, a penalty was given to the Sounders as Araujo brought down Montero in the box, and there was no need for Julian Araujo to bring down Montero in the box. It was a really clumsy challenge, but nevertheless, Seattle will take it, and Montero would actually convert the penalty to give the Sounders the lead as we head into halftime. Though that lead wouldn't last long as we head into the second half, because just 3 minutes in, Douglas Costa would score his first career goal for the Galaxy and his first career MLS goal. And this actually was off of a deflection off a free kick. Like, originally, from what I heard I thought this was an amazing free kick that Douglas Costa scored, and it deserved a Goal of the Week nomination. But this was more because it was off of a deflection off of that wall from the Sounders. And yeah, it's, that was a very unlucky goal, in my opinion, for the Sounders, because anytime when you have tried to set up a wall and that, it hits the wall, I mean, that's the thing, sometimes when that ball hits the wall, especially the top of the wall, it can take a wicked deflection the other way, and that was a clear example of that. But nevertheless, the game was all tied up at 2 apiece, and Cabral almost made it 3-2 in favor of the Galaxy as he struck the post on the curler. I thought Cabral definitely had a good game in this one, and the same goes with Chicharito, though he did really want this one back because he missed an absolute sitter from 5 yards out. I mean, he basically tried to hit that one in, and he just kind of didn't get it right in terms of the header. But there was no doubt the Galaxy had all the momentum, and they were definitely trying to, well, actually, they weren't trying to push to get one back, but more like they were pushing to trying to get the lead back here. But Arriaga had an opportunity in the 62nd minute. In fact, he actually hit the post on the header. There was a lot of posts that was hit in this game too. But in the 72nd minute, he would actually score here from the Rodon brother, that is Alex Rodon and Christian Rodon. And again, this one coming from a set piece. Set piece defending was a big problem for the Galaxy in this one, and that gave the Sounders the lead back to 3-2. Although in the 78th minute, it was almost 3-3, and Efrain Alvarez, I mean, he won that Goal of the Week honor against Charlotte FC, and he looked like he was going to try to repeat that by doing something that was kind of almost similar to what he did against Charlotte FC, hitting that one from about 25 yards out, but this time it actually struck the post. And it was even more incredible is that on the follow-up, Revolson was trying to go for a Jimmy Chara. I mean, he was trying to bike it in, but it just missed high there. I mean, that was just such an incredible sequence where I don't think we have ever seen a sequence where we had a potential golazo that was hit off the post, and then we also had another golazo that was a bicycle kick that just went a little bit high. But there was no doubt that the Galaxy was pressing to try to get that equalizer late, but unfortunately they weren't able to do so as the Sounders just survived to win 3-2 in this game. And the shots in this one, 8 shots compared to the 14 that the Galaxy had, 3 shots on goal compared to the 4 that the Sounders had, 9 shots off target compared to the 3 that the Sounders had, 2 shots that was blocked compared to the 1 that the Sounders had. And possession-wise, 64% possession compared to 36% possession that Seattle has in this game. And, again, the Galaxy, they would be very hard done that they didn't get at least a point in this game, because I didn't think they played badly in this game. And I know they were also kind of facing kind of a Sounders B team, though I wouldn't say it was a Sounders B team, because when I look at the lineup, it looked like it was almost the same lineup that they put against Leon back on Wednesday. So it was still a relatively strong squad that Brian Schmitz had put. And the Galaxy, again, if they were a little bit more fortunate going forward, and also their defense is not just hot garbage as we saw in this one, they probably would have got all 3 points in this one too. But either way, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys do a like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of these 4 games and also the other 8 games that I've talked about as part of the review of all 12 of these games on Saturday. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.